Now.
Okay.
And we are live, coming to you from New York. I am Oiza Adaba, coming to you from New York with the Africa-related report. And today I am privileged to be joined by two broadcasters and journalists based in the US and writers as well. They've been front and center on top of the diasporan voice in the US and have been also very much through their broadcasts and through their platforms. If you know very well about them, you'd understand that they have been there and putting issues front and center about Nigeria and also generally about Africa and the diaspora. And I have none other with me than Adeola Fayehun, host of Keeping It Real and broadcaster based here in the US. And I also have with me Rudolf Okonkwo. Rudolf, in his character of Dr. Damages, hosts his own show as well. So both of you, you're welcome to Africa Related Studios. It's great to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Wonderful. A lot is going on. We're talking about so many things today. We're talking about the U.S. elections. We're monitoring how things are in the U.S. We're relating it to Nigeria, our country, and also Africa as a whole to see how things play out on that side. I've been talking to a lot of journalists on the other side. The show just before yours was talking to Nigerian journalists to get a sense of what is happening, how the polity is being received on that side. And it's quite interesting to hear some of the things going on. But before we carry on the conversation today, I'd like to play us a short video, a report by Reuters, and then we'll take it from there. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Great.
Many countries across the African continent are no stranger to disputed elections and claims of voter fraud.
Legal challenges.
That's why some have observed events around the U.S. election with a wry smile. Nigerian consultant Abo Elemi.
Before now, we feel America is a model. But a soothsayer doesn't need to tell us that the America we are looking at as a model in everything is not even a model when it comes to electioneering.
In Nairobi, Maurice Nandasaba watched as Americans barricaded shops and offices, fearing looting and violence.
Something that we normally experience in Africa. Can this happen in a country that has seen democracy for centuries?
On Wednesday, the U.S. Embassy in Ivory Coast urged dialogue and a return to the rule of law following the West African nation's own disputed election on Saturday. Some took umbrage with one Twitter user writing, "I believe the playground response is, why you talking about yourself?" Pierre Vincent Kekongo is a computer engineer in the capital, Abidjan.
On a l'habitude de voir un pays qui respecte les droits.
We are used to seeing a country that respects rights,
la constitution, qui
respects the constitution, respects all things democratic.
Démocratie, mais aujourd'hui,
now with what we see on the television, we don't know anymore.
On ne sait plus où on va.
As well as surprise, there was also concern. Back in the Kenyan capital, resident James Inyamwaya said that Trump declaring himself president was a very dangerous trend for Africa.
Because tomorrow we are going to have leaders from all over coming to claim that they have won elections.
He added that America is losing its direction as a world leader.
Okay, so we've seen that report. Oh, Adeola, are you okay?
I think I am.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry, we saw you coughing a little bit over there. So we've seen that report, and we've seen what is the general feel. Thank you, Reuters, for that. The general feel about how African countries are generally viewing the U.S. Elections. Let me start from you, Rudolf, and then we'll come to you, Adeola, so that you can catch your breath a little bit. Rudolf, what is the take? I mean, what is the feel where you are? What are you hearing, and what do you make of that report, where it's somewhat on the reversal now that Africans are now watching the U.S. very closely regarding the elections?
I'm in New York, and here in New York, we rejected Trump long time ago. We understand him, and we are feeling that the long American nightmare is finally over. We are sure that he's going home,
okay.
And in New York, yeah, we're sure he's going home, and
I take it that you're speaking for New Yorkers.
Yeah.
For the New Yorkers
for New Yorkers,
that voted,
yeah, exactly. So we're sure he's going home, and we're happy about that. I like what the last guy speaking from Africa said, that America is losing its direction as a world leader. The point is that no matter what you think about Trump, what Trump was turning America into was a third world country. That was a major concern that most people have who have followed his administration in the last 4 years. And the fact that it's ending today, I think sometime today, is going to come to an end, is something that people in New York will be happy to see that happen.
Let me speak with you, Adeola, on your view, where you are and what the general feel is concerning the elections, and while we wait for the results.
So I think personally, this is the first time that I'm experiencing a drag in the result of American election. Apparently, this happened during George Bush as well. But for this particular election, a lot of Africans are paying attention, especially Nigerians, because of their vested interest in, one of the candidates. So this is an election that is being closely monitored, not just in America, but outside of America. And honestly, I'm starting to feel like the U.S. election is sort of like an African election where you wait for days and days to know the results of the election. But at the same time, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, I feel like this year the mail-in ballots is higher than it has ever been. And I think that has a lot to do with the rate of COVID-19 in America. A lot of people didn't want to go out on election day because of COVID-19, so they decided to mail in their votes. But so many people mailed in their votes this year. And those mailed in votes, they literally have to count them. They have to enter each individual into the system, individual votes into the system, unlike the election day where people enter their information directly into the system, which makes it easier to count. So if you look at the fact that America is the country that has been most affected by COVID-19, more than 200,000 people dead, you would be able to reason as to why people would prefer the mail-in votes this time, which is what has complicated this election result, but they're still counting the mail-in votes. But I also wanted to say that I've seen a lot of people repeating what Trump said, that most of the mail-in votes have Biden's name on it. Well, it would, because for a long time, Trump had said that the mail-in vote would not be fair, that it wouldn't be free and fair. And so he urged his supporters to come out on election day, and most of them did. They came out on election day. So most of the people that participated in the mail-in votes are people that are voting for Biden, if that makes any sense, because Trump has said that it won't be free and fair, that they should come out on election day. So those that didn't come out on election day, that more than their vote, most of them are turning out to be people that are voting for Biden.
Hmm. So we're seeing it play out in so many different directions, but ultimately we are waiting for results. And what I want to ask the two of you is back again to our country, Nigeria, and the way it is our own polities constructed and how it plays out. What lessons can we learn from the U.S., Rudolph, in terms of how this, how it goes on, how our elections go on, how we wait for the results? Some of the positive things I think that COVID-19 have kind of sort of exposed, and it's taught us so many ways to work. I'm sure we are all working from our different homes, and normally would be in our offices. So all of those come into play. We have a lot of lessons here, even though Africa is also learning from the US. But what can Nigeria, in terms of our own INEC and preparing towards 2023, what can we learn from this, Rudolph?
I don't know. In America, what people are discussing now is that the electoral structure is not really working very well, in the sense that you have states running elections. So you have a lack of a centralized system where each state, they have different structure and different laws. It used to work very well for them, but now when you have a tight election where you have to count every vote, you see the loopholes, and that's what we're seeing now. But the main thing is that those who fail to plan, they plan to fail. America has been getting away with ignoring all the loopholes, because if the election is not close, we wouldn't have seen all the things we're seeing today. In places like Texas, in New York, they didn't count all the votes. They finally figured out that no, there's no way that this person will win, so they declared it for this one. But America has been consistently over time, ignoring all the loopholes, all the flaws in the system. Now they are forced to confront it. So for Nigeria, our system is full of holes, and we haven't even started to deal with that. We haven't even started that process of establishing something that is credible, something that has the potential of showing the mandate of the people. So we have a long way to go, and basically we are waiting until we are maybe 1 year or 6 months to the election to start talking about it. But we haven't put into place
But
any kind of lessons.
we should be doing
Yeah,
more.
yeah, lessons that we learned from the last election. We have not done anything about that. So then you expect that 6 months before the election you put it in place and they will all work. No, it's not going to work. So that's the thing. That and America, but what is the difference now is that America will learn from this, and you see that in the next few months they will take action and they will do things. After the Florida debacle that happened in 2000, they changed the voting system in most counties in America to take care of that. And that kind of error didn't happen this time, or has never happened again. But in the case of Nigeria, nothing will be done until we are 6 months to the election, and then we go through that process again.
The diaspora vote is something that has been, on the minds of so many people, especially when we look at what is happening now. Nigeria, as it is, we don't have their mail-in votings in the US. We saw today, I think, is the last day for counting even the military votes that came in from overseas. Whereas in our country, Nigeria has so many people scattered all over the world, and I believe that a lot of these people would like to vote, would like to participate in the. What would you like to say about that, Adeola, as a person living outside of your country and would still want to stake in,
Mhm.
who takes over, who comes into power?
Yeah, so I feel like that's actually part of the previous question about some of the things that we can learn. The fact that Americans from different parts of the world could still participate in their election. Americans abroad were still able to vote. By now, we should also be able to vote when there's an election in Nigeria. I mean, Nigerians in the diaspora, we should have a say in who should be leaders. But I before I answer that, I wanted to say something from the last question about lessons to learn. Like the fact that during the election here in the US, from the day of the election, we started seeing who's leading, how many votes, and everybody has access to that information. It's something that I wish we could emulate in Nigeria. I think it's so ridiculous that after elections in Nigeria, you see INEC sit on one chair like that. They sit at the top. They in this one hall. They rent this hall. They have journalists with their camera. Everybody fighting. They start calling state by state.
Manual,
APC 32.
manually in a
But
digital
manual
age.
in a digital era.
Yeah.
APC 4,323. PDP, and they're the only ones with access to these numbers, and they are calling out these numbers, and you're trying to follow, but you can't even follow. There's like so many parties, and they're calling each number from each party, and you sit in front of the TV all day, all night. The second day you resume, it's very tasking. It's just too much wahala, and then you have people like Eberibe or what's his name, Rudolph, you remember, that can just interject while while
Yeah,
they're
I remember that. Yeah, back then.
while they're counting
Hmm.
election, people can just interject, and then they will say
Yeah.
they are going on a break. Like, can we just have it digitized? Like, can we just have the numbers on Google or whatever so that people from all over can see it? Because when the Nigerian election comes, it's not just about Nigeria. People outside of Nigeria are also interested in Nigerian election. You see how the whole world is able to follow American election. All they need to Google is result of U.S. election, and they would see it. And so I know that we can do it. We have tech savvy people in Nigeria that could make this happen. It's just that I don't know if some of these elderly men are even willing to listen to a different way of doing things. And definitely by now we should be able to have access to vote when there's an election in Nigeria. If you're outside of Nigeria, you should be able to vote. And I feel like if people in the diaspora are able to vote, it could greatly impact the result of the election in Nigeria.
Okay, well said. Now, speaking of elderly men allowing you to do the things that if they would allow you, we are just still dealing. We haven't even come out of it yet. We're still dealing with the End SARS movement that just happened in Nigeria, and the fallouts are there. We're still witnessing it, and in so many different dimensions. And I know the two of you are on top of monitoring the news to know exactly what is happening there. How can what are the similarities, Rudolph, do you see between what happened in Nigeria in the last few weeks regarding NSAS, and also what we experienced here in the US not too long ago following the George Floyd killings?
That's a good question. I think they are similar in the sense that they picked on something. NSAS, why it was successful as far as it went, was that it picked on something that most Nigerians could relate to beyond any particular region. People have encountered the police in Nigeria, knew what it could look like. The same thing with Black people, mainly, or people of color in America. But it went beyond that, because the issue of racism in America is beyond what the police is doing to Black people or Black men or Black women. The same thing in Nigeria. The issue of a failure of the Nigerian government, the bad governance that we have in Nigeria, goes beyond the police action of the police. So that's the similarity I see. But what is the difference is that in the case of America, we also saw an effort by the government, especially the government of Trump, to put down to mislabel the protesters, call them names, and then try to mix them up with people who are merely anarchists. It's also happened in Nigeria exactly the same way, where the government, in some cases, even sponsored the thugs that came in to disrupt the protest. And now, in the difference is that in America there were also shooting involving the military or the police, and the military was also the government of Trump tried to bring in the military to get involved in a domestic affair, which is something that doesn't happen in America that frequently, and the situation didn't warrant that situation at all. So essentially, the danger, when we talk about the danger of Trump's administration, not just in America, but around the world, is that instead of the people outside of America looking at America as an example, they ended up copying America. Find leaders in Africa feeling that, oh, if Trump is doing this, then it's okay for me to do this. And I'm sure some people in Nigeria had that conversation and decided that this is appropriate thing to do to the people who are protesting in Nigeria.
Interesting take. Adeola, I've seen one of your reports that where you were forced to pretty much correct some notions about U.S. politics and how it's perceived in Nigeria. What preempted that?
So I found out it was, as you say in Yoruba, it was like joke. That Nigerians actually think that Trump is a messiah. I'm sorry that I'm laughing because this is not a laughing matter. Because they actually truly believe this, and you don't want people's belief. You just try to reason with them. But it took me a while for it to register. Like, are you kidding me? Like, on what basis? And the more I talk to people, the more I realize there's a whole lot of misconception when it comes to U.S. election. They actually genuinely believe that there is a God party and there is a devil's party. Not all of them, but a huge percentage of Nigerians in Nigeria believe that there is a God party and there is a devil's party, and that the Democratic Party is the devil's party, and that the Republican Party is God's party. And that just really baffled me. I had no idea where this was coming from. Eventually, I found out that many of it came from preachings by influential men of God about some new world order, which I cannot go into right now.
Yeah,
but
no need
the basis of it is that Trump is the only one that can stop the new world order. So I'm a Christian, so I went into my Bible. I tried to look for Trump. I could not find Trump. And also I tried to reason with why would they want to stop something. If it's a prophecy, then why do you need to worry about it? Why do you need to stop it? So it really baffled me. That's why I made that video.
episode, just to clarify, and educate people, I guess.
Yeah, but then it turned out that
what was the reception like? How was it received?
I expected to be stoned, and I was, but there were people who were open-minded a little bit, and they were willing to listen and reason. And it's sort of hard because I really wish that all Nigerians could travel to the US, at least spend 6 months, and know what life is like in the US. It's when you're not in a country or when you've never been there, it's hard to understand what life is like there. And the sad thing is when you think you know more than people who are living there. When I do my show, I talk about so many countries and many countries that I've never been to. And I always say, I don't know anything, and I mean it, that I really don't, especially because I've never been to many of these countries. But I still make the effort to talk to people who live in these countries. Every country I talk about, I find people that live there. But the fact that so many of these Nigerian Christians have never been in the US or lived in the US, and they believe, just going by what their pastor said, that this is the devil's party and God's party, is what baffled me. That's why I made that video.
Okay, thanks so much for speaking about that. Now, both of you have your shows. You have you both have your platforms and your followings. I watch you guys, both of you, every week deliver. and I'm sure your feedback and your comment buttons or your comment sections tell you the type of reception that each show and each episode that you put out there generates. Now, Rudolph, I'll start with you on this question in terms of Dr. Damages. What are some of the high points of producing that show and putting things out the way you do? And then what also are some of the other side of it that we don't get to see in terms of the challenges that you faced in putting it together, and also some of the backlash that you've experienced, because you're not very kind on that show, are you? uh it's quite not kind is not the word, but it's a very, they're serious topics. You deliver it in satire, but it's still very serious nonetheless. So no doubt that not everybody would agree with you. But what are some of the backlash or some of the feedback you get from your show, Dr.
Well,
Damages?
well, I think to most people who do not like what I do, they already condemned me. My name says it. I'm damaged, and I can't be. There's no hope in me. So they've given up, But still, the point is that I've come to see people who will write comments and abuse me, but when I meet them, they are nice and they're happy to see me. And I've seen people who I talk to, like people in government. Some of them, I've met some of them, and they are not as angry as their followers who are mad at me for saying those things. So if I go back, this is about, I'm getting to next year will be the 10th year of this show. And it's been amazing how things change. When we started, you couldn't talk about men of God. We took a lot of flack for what we said about men of God. I remember one episode where we had Jonathan as president being slapped by Oyedepo, Winners Chapel leader, and we posted a picture, just a picture of the episode after we finished shooting, and in a minute we had 1,000 comments, all saying that I was going to die within the next 24 hours.
Oh, no.
So and I just said, okay,
I'm
now
praying for you.
I don't want to let them be happy. So I was careful for the next 24 hours, I tried not to when I'm crossing the road, because I don't want me, if I die, they would think that was what happened. So I made sure that, I ate proper food.
Oh my God.
Anyway, but I think things have changed a lot, that now everybody now has the power or the opportunity to abuse anybody, as they say, abuse anybody. What we did is, and I met some journalists in Nigeria when I went home several times, and they said to me that, even though they don't like us, but in private they say, oh, what you guys are doing, you are making space for us to say certain things that we wouldn't have been able to say. Because we take it to the level where they could now say, oh, this pastor, what he did is wrong, because we've opened the door that it's possible to say that. So people don't understand how all these are flowing together. I also remember that let me give you an example where when Jonathan left and we have Buhari, and we start talking about Buhari, you find out that the people who used to like my show when I was talking about Jonathan are now angry that I'm criticizing Buhari. But I thought that was the job. I was supposed to criticize the person who is in power, who is supposed to be held accountable, because what I'm doing is to hold them accountable. It doesn't matter to me who they are. It doesn't matter if this is my cousin or my brother. As long as you're there and you're not doing the job, we face you. We're not going to talk about people who are not in power. We're talking about people who are controlling the resources, who are supposed to deliver. So that's how it goes. But I don't worry about that anymore, about what people say and what people write on comment section. I read them. I always like them, and I appreciate the fact that people are writing. But we agree that they will say they are going to unsubscribe and they won't watch you anymore. But next week you see the same person come back to say, oh, okay, I like this one. And the point is that no matter the episode, there's something you won't like and there's something you will like. So that's how it is. Yeah.
It's not for everybody, and that's the way criticism goes, really.
Yeah.
It's hard to. And I'll ask you the same question, Adeola. You have a very great show as well, and you have your following and your audience, and some of the issues that you deal with on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, as the case is. They're not fun at all. And so would like to hear your own views as well, and some of the experiences that you've had, some of the feedback and maybe backlash, if there are any, you've had in putting together your show, Keeping It Real.
So I feel like Rudolph spoke for both of us. I feel like
Speak
Rudolph
for yourself.
spoke for both of us when you spoke right now.
Speak for
Because
yourself.
I mean, one thing I love about Rudolph is when people are saying in the comments, he goes and he answers them and he's like, I agree more. Like someone can write something like, you are lost beyond redemption, and Rudolph would say, I cannot agree more, and then they don't know what else to write after that because he's not disputing them. So, and I still remember when he made that video about Oyedepo. Oh my goodness, it was quite an experience. I was not part of it. I didn't know anything about it. Please unmute him. He's trying to dispute this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What did you say?
Yeah. And can you tell them who was the editor of that show?
Oh, so you were not a part of it, huh?
I was not part of it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But the only thing was I made him kneel down for a long time. So when I was the one directing it. So when I started doing my show, actually, it's funny because the response is nothing like what it is today. At the beginning, it was just a lot of abuses and people telling me this is why you don't have a boyfriend, and people telling me you need a man to tame you. They would actually write that I needed a man to tame me. I needed a man to tame me. And when I talk about a political party, they will say I'm sponsored by the other party. And then when I talk about the other party, they will say I'm sponsored by this party. So I always tell people it's hard to keep track of my sponsors. But, I found out that when I say something on the show that they are not able to dispute, then they call me a prostitute. And I don't know why, but African men actually think that's the biggest abuse ever. If you call a woman prostitute, she's supposed to feel ashamed and feel sad. But for me, it gives me energy. It tells me they're watching. I'm like, yes, they're getting the memo. And I've had several people say they're unsubscribing or they're unfollowing my show, whatever. But if I were to base my show on trying to make anybody happy, I won't even have a show today. And so I don't get carried away when people say good things about my show, because I know the same set of people may be upset about something that I do tomorrow. I remember doing a story about this Cameroonian doctor, Dr. Stella, who was talking about chloroquine. Oh my goodness, it's been a long time since I got that kind of backlash. Oh, they abused me in the show that I'm evil, this, that. They abused when Trump got COVID-19. Did he say anything about the same chloroquine that they were all fighting that he did not take chloroquine? Anyway, I'm just trying to say that the sad thing is the same set of people, they will never come back and say, I was wrong about what I said about you the other time. And I don't go on the show and say, see, I've been vindicated, whatever. We are all still learning. So, but now I love the fact that people now talk about the things that I talk about on the show in the comment section. They're actually discussing things that I talk about on the show. There is still every now and then in every episode, there's still basically hating on something about me, something I said. But now most of the people just focus on the things that I talked about, which is great. And the fact that they used to tell me that you're a woman, what do women know about politics? I'm seeing less of that now. But at the beginning, that was it. Like, you're a woman, go get a real job. What do women know about politics? Go and get married. I don't know why marriage is like an accomplishment for Africans, but that was the memo I was getting. Huh?
I said, Ruben,
Rudolph?
can you answer that?
Yeah, Rudolph.
Well,
Rudolph,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
can you answer that?
Why marriage? Oh yeah,
Yeah. Why is
I'm
marriage so
preparing.
important to Africans?
I'm preparing for a second wife. That's the new
He
thing.
has come
We are
again.
looking for
Yes.
another
So
one.
to
On
have
that note, we'll take a very short break and catch our breaths, and we'll be back in just about 10 seconds. We're back. We are back. Thank you, Ruben. Rudolph, oh my goodness. I have to keep to, I might apologize. I really, really apologize. Thank you, Rudolf Okonkwo, Dr. Damages, aka, and also Adeola Fayehun of Keeping It Real. Now, you are both, Adeola, you're a self-starter, sort of. You went into this broadcasting world. I know you started off with Sahara Reporters after your studies, and then you went into this broadcasting world, and you pretty much built your brand by yourself. Tell us about that, a little bit about some of those, that journey, and where it's brought you to today.
So I honestly don't know if I didn't know I was building anything when I was. It's just that I've always wanted to have my own media company since my freshman year in college. And so I would write down, like, I had what I call my book of dreams, and I would write down shows, all kinds of shows, including children's shows and stuff. And when I was in grad school was when I started making videos. And I still remember after I was done, I started making a show like Keeping It Real. We called it at the time, we called it African, it's for a website called African Mag. And I would talk about different African countries. And at that time, when I'm done talking about a country, I would throw the paper just for you to know that I'm done with that country. I move to another country, and not many people were watching. And then when I started freelancing for Sahara TV, I was a freelancer for them for 6 years. I was producing. I was behind the camera. I was a camera person. I was a producer. I was very quiet. Rudolph will testify to that. I'm still very quiet. And I would do everything but be in front of the camera. Like, I would always avoid being in front of the camera. I just wanted to be behind the camera. And then when Rudolph wanted to start his show, I became his camera person, his producer even, because like I would direct so many things. I would make him repeat many things and stuff like that. And then I would edit his show. And I was like, and I was fine. And then the person who was doing the news at the time, Amma, she went back to Ghana. And so she already asked me to do the news. And I said I wouldn't do the news because nobody was watching. I didn't tell him that, but not many people were watching it. Just sitting down and reading the news. And so when he insisted, I said I would do it if I could do it my own way. And so I went back to what I was doing for African Mag at the time, like talking about different African countries, but trying to make it interesting. So this time around, I gave it a name. And after everybody had left, I shot the first episode. I talked about different countries, and then I put it on YouTube and I sent him the link, and he loved it. Everybody loved it. They all wanted to come in when I wanted to shoot the second episode. They all came in the room, and I literally had to drive them all out because I couldn't do it, because like I said, I was very quiet. I wouldn't say much. Why is Rudolph quiet about this? So I was really quiet, and I just didn't feel comfortable with people coming in when I wanted to shoot. So, but I had my own media company even before I started freelancing for Sahara TV at the time. And I kept doing what I was doing. I was never a full-time staff at Sahara. So I continued doing what I was doing while I was working at Sahara TV. And then I started my own Facebook page. I would put all my works on my Facebook page as well. And it was just gradually, slowly that people were watching what I was doing. I didn't know that I was building any brand. It's just that I just really believed so much in what I was doing and wanted people to see it and hear it. And that was how we started. Anyway, we still have a very with there are people with millions and millions of subscribers and millions of Facebook supporters, Instagram, and stuff. So I don't think we've scratched anything. If you look at the population of Nigeria alone, more than 200 million, not to talk about Africa, and I'm trying to talk about the whole of Africa. So we have a long way to go. I'm trying to be like Rudolph, man.
Yeah. We want to be like you. I want to be like you when I grow up. My goodness. But Rudolph, you infuse humor. So you have to tell us the role humor has played for you, because it must also be a cross, because sometimes when you want people to take you seriously, because they know you as by your humorous nature, is that a problem for you when you want a certain level of seriousness in the room, and people just look at you as, oh, he's a funny guy, and that's it?
Well, that's a challenge for me. Actually, when you invited me, I was thinking, am I coming as Rudolph or Dr. Damages? I don't know. Sometimes I cross the line. But the point is this. The point is that I started writing. I was writing in Nigeria. I was a reporter, and I worked for a newspaper, and I came outside the country, and I also did that. At a point, I felt that I've said almost the same thing I want to say, and nothing has changed. So how do we reach people? There are people I noticed that didn't care about the news, they didn't care about writing long essays. I said, okay, how do I reach them? Then there could be a way to merge humor and seriousness in analyzing issues. So that was when I decided, okay, I should try Dr. Damages, which is more like a late night show, and deal with these issues in a different way, so that people who traditionally do not read the newspapers and do not read all these long essays, they will be able to watch and maybe get something out of it. My ultimate goal, sometimes I felt, is that you use I don't want to feed you, say to you, Trump is bad. No, I don't want to feed that to you. I want to show you something, tell you something that will make you come to that conclusion. I want you to use your tongue to count your teeth. That's my goal every day. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But when it works, I think it's a better way of dealing with the arguments you are getting from the other side. Because you are not telling them, you're not trying to move them physically. They are going to use their own mind and say, okay, maybe what we are thinking is wrong, So that's the goal. And it's been a challenge, but also very entertaining. I like that. I like when people are confused, when people are saying, how could you? I said, why Africans must vote for Trump? People went bizarre. People were mad, and they were thinking, have you lost your mind? How could you? But then, if you listen to what I was saying, you know that I was not actually saying you should Africans in Africa should vote for Trump. Anyway, there's no way they can vote. But for you to think about, what you are saying, and I didn't want to argue with them, like saying, oh, Obama was the one who stopped prayers in school. I didn't want to argue with them. I've done the argument on the phone with people, and I saw that I couldn't get anywhere. I said, okay, how do I reach them? And the other way to reach them, by telling them that this was done in 1962. So Obama was a year old in 1962, but this is what people believed. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Interesting. And both of you, you bring in your traditional languages. Adeola, you speak a lot of Yoruba, and Rudolph, you speak a lot of Igbo in your dialogues as well. Do you have a problem? Does your audience have a problem with that, or are they picking up a little language lesson? Adeola?
To be fair, I subscribe every Yoruba that I try as much as possible to did I say subscribe? I translate the Yorubas that I put in my show so that people could understand what I'm saying. But for me, it's favor, because even though there are people that don't understand, there are people who do, and it helps them appreciate what I'm doing. The more it makes it more relatable when I speak, especially the conk Yoruba, not just the regular Yoruba. Something like, in Lagos they would say something like Ekweleo, something like that, but in the conk Yoruba they would say Enlefa, Ekuno, that's the one that I speak. And it's part of me. Yeah, the village one, I say I'm from the village, and I'm trying to make my village people proud. So,
and I'm sure they are. And you, Rudolph, language in your dialogue?
Recently I started putting some proverbs. I love proverbs. You know, if you can figure it out, you'll be amazed at how much knowledge is packed inside a piece of just one proverb. So I have this favorite one, which I taught Adeola, and she uses it all the time too, which is kafune fune diutua fune fune agadia. I wish people will understand that, because if they understand that, it explains everything.
Yeah, moving too fast. Slow, and this is
Okay.
on the count of 1, 2, 3, and I want both of you to go at it. On 2, 3, 1, go.
Kafune fune diutua fune fune agadia. So a good example is this. Okay, so look at our chief of army staff, Buratai. He said, "Oh, I didn't leave the country until I was 50." And you look at Buhari, who went to school in Britain, in America, military schools, and you think that this, okay, if Buhari's thinking and mentality is the way it is, and he went to school abroad, he was in America. Imagine Buratai, who never went to America, went anywhere outside Nigeria until he was over 50. So, kafune fune diutua, fune fune agadiaga. So imagine if Buhari didn't go anywhere, how his mind will look like. I mean, like, what he will be thinking about, how, we are worried about what he's saying now. Imagine what he will look like then.
Rudolf?
What does it mean?
I don't know.
Oh, really?
I have no idea. I give you an
yeah, it's for us to go and think about, right? So
yeah.
definitely would we'll keep it to mind, because it's always interesting to see and an infusion of it, and this is where we as Nigerians and as Africans, are really, really proud, and we continue to stand with pride. I know that there's a lot of negativity going on around the world, and I know that a lot of people are very upset at the two of you, from whatever you do, because of what you do. And mostly the truth that you speak, and you find that when people are on the path of truth, is always very difficult so that's understandable. But let's enter a place of healing now and hope. So what offer of hope, and where is this middle ground? We can look at it world over, and we can look at it specifically when it concerns our country, Nigeria. Where is that meeting ground where young people are complaining, government, you're not listening, you're not hearing us, and the government is like, just take a back seat just for now until. So I'll go with you first, Adeola, and then end with you, Rudolf.
Well, to be honest with you, we both started this show not for people to like us, which is why it didn't matter that, some people don't like what we're doing. We started this show because we wanted our country to change. And not just our country, we wanted our continent to change, to get better. We have both been opportune to live outside of Nigeria, see how life is outside of Nigeria. Know that you don't have to have potholes on all the roads. Know that you can have stable electricity non-stop throughout the year. You should not have power generator in your house. You should not be the one providing your own electricity. You should not be the one providing your own water. You should not be the one fixing your road. These are basic amenities. And we both have access to good health care. We can both dial 911 and the ambulance will show up and take us if we needed that. And so we started this show because we wanted everybody at home to also experience what we're experiencing and to know this is their right, their fundamental human right. And so that's why we didn't stop just because some people were upset. And this is still the goal, to see our government become responsible, take charge, do what they were elected to do, our officials, to see them do what they were elected to do or appointed to do. And we won't stop until we see that happen. And we know that it can happen. Nigeria has the capacity, the resources, the money, and the expertise to have well-equipped hospitals, to have better roads, to have stable electricity. We have everything we need. And now more people are reasoning the way we are, that, especially because we show what life is like elsewhere, not just like in America, but in other parts of Africa. There are so many African countries that are doing way better than we are doing in Nigeria. Unfortunately, a lot of Nigerians don't know much about other African countries, because when you talk about Africa, we think we are it. We think we are Nigeria because we are the most populated. But there are so many African countries that are doing really well. I still remember doing a story about the train and the train stations in Kenya and also in Ethiopia. And for a lot of Nigerians, that was the first time that they saw the infrastructural development in Kenya. And a lot of Nigerians were really mad. They were really upset when they saw that. And they know that we spent more money in Nigeria on that train station, and it's nothing compared to what they have in Kenya or their train station. Their train station looks way better than our airports. All our international airports, they don't look as nice as Kenyan train stations. So when Nigerians saw things like this, they were really upset. They realized they needed to fight for their rights, and that's what we're doing. We're hoping that the government at some point would do what it's supposed to do.
Great. And to you, Rudolph?
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that middle ground. I was very happy when I saw young people rise up and demand for answers and end bad governance. It tells me that what I've been preaching, which was that Nigeria is a failed nation that works for the people that failed it. It was getting to the people. They're beginning to know that they can do something about it. And there's something that people didn't understand that also happened during that demonstration or protest. Other African countries were watching Nigeria, and other African countries who used to blame Nigerian youths for leaving their country and coming to South Africa or whatever, Zimbabwe, and messing it up, they now understand. They have newfound respect for Nigerians, the Nigerian youths. They now know that these Nigerian kids they are seeing in their countries, they didn't like what is going on in their own country. And they've risen up to say, we don't want this. We want to fix our country so that we don't have to run around all over the world and look for where to make a living. So they also prove to us, the young people prove the same thing I've been saying, that the ideals of Nigeria, they've not been tried and found wanting. They've been found difficult and left untried. What I think they tried to do, the young people, they were trying to give that ideal a second chance, maybe a final chance. And unfortunately, it didn't happen this time. And I hope that this is not the end, because there is no option. More people in Nigeria are at that point where they said, we can still do something about this. We can still fix this. We can still take action. It's in our power. But of course, the old people once again stop them. And I hope that they will find a way to keep pushing, because there's no alternative.
Interesting. No alternative but to keep pushing. And I really, it shouldn't be this conversation between old and young. It shouldn't be this, when you say the old people or, these people in power. So, no, I get you. I totally understand. And if you look at the demographics of the people in power, it is what it is. Now, which would bring me to my last point to the two of you before we close down the show. So do you have any plans for Nigeria? There's a lot of Nigerians. There's a lot of brain drain out there. We're all in the diaspora right now. Do you have any plans for being in Nigeria or running for any political offices or doing beyond what you're doing now to effecting that change in Nigeria? Let me take you, Rudolph.
Okay. I was excited. I have a friend who was a former government official. I call her a friend. And when she saw me in New York recently, and she said, "Okay, you've been criticizing the government for so long. It's time to go home and participate." And I said to her, "You that participated, you didn't tell us what you saw. You failed. You didn't tell us what you saw. How do you expect me to go there and also to fail until you tell us, write a book, tell us what you saw?" But the point is this, and I also said that you don't have to be in politics to contribute. You can do what you're doing. This is part of my own contribution. I don't have to run for office. I don't think it's necessary. Anybody can contribute from wherever they are, whatever they are doing. Let the people who are look at Showore that went to run for office. How is he doing? How are they embracing him? Why do they want me to come? If I don't need that,
They
you know,
didn't get him. All right.
I'm contributing. I'm doing well.
Okay,
Thank you
no
very
problem.
much. Yeah.
No problem. Adiola, how about you? Not
Rudolph,
necessarily a
you,
political office, but
I know, right? Rudolph, you talk too much. Like, I'm praying for you.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness.
first of all, I don't know why you think I'm not in Nigeria. As far as people are concerned, I am in Nigeria. Do you not see how current I am with Nigerian issue? And I speak this fluent Yoruba. I'm always
Even
in
more on top
Nigeria.
of it
It's
than
just
people in
thank
Nigeria.
you. I am very much in Nigeria. People don't, and some people think that I just came to America. When they find out that I'm in America, they say, so you want Trump to give you green card or whatever. So some people think I just got to America. But in terms of, I think Rudolph said everything. People always think that you have to be in politics to make a difference. I strongly believe that I've made more impact doing what I'm doing than if I were to be in government. I'm enlightening people. You know what I mean? And I don't think I need to be in government to do that. And you can touch so many lives. You can make a lot of changes without being in politics. Everybody thinks you have to be in politics. But at the same time, I'm the one that will preach to people that they need to join politics because we need more good people in politics. The fact that we don't have enough good people, that's why we have the same set of people who are bent on destroying Nigeria running back in office. So I strongly believe that people should run for office, especially women. I want to see more women. But with what I do, I think I like being the one keeping an eye on the people in office. That doesn't mean that I'm against being in office. You know, I'm always preaching that people should be in office. So Yiza, we need you in politics, please. We need people like you who are enlightened, exposed, and everything. We need you to be
Who are you talking to?
Nigerian,
Is it me?
in Nigerian politics. But
Please,
just know
like
that
you, I'm just doing
once
my
you're
work.
because now you are politician are watching you like we are watching Shoya as well. It's not that Rudolph talks too much. So I'm just trying to say that.
But we all have a lot to contribute. You're right. We're
And
doing
I'm
what we do.
contributing,
Yeah, and
At least for now, this
in
is
our
what I'm trying
country,
to do.
what we see is that we're up against the system, and I think that is why a lot of people are very discouraged from going in. We've seen well-meaning people. Sorry, Adeola, you were saying.
I said, I don't know why you think people like us will be embraced in politics. Do you know the damage that we have done?
Well, it's looking towards a new Nigeria where
the
it's
politicians
looking.
that we have monitored.
We understand, but it's looking towards a new Nigeria where you can, government and people can engage, and you can actually criticize your government and bring them to book. That is what we're looking towards. But we have a few comments in the section, and while many people appreciate your shows, a lot of people are also sending you their big hugs and very big feelings. It swings both ways, so it's both good and bad, but ultimately everyone encouraging you all to keep what you're doing going, because like you said, whether you admit or want to accept or you like these two or not, they have been at it. They built their brands and their businesses doing this, their names as they're known today doing this, not from an ill-intended place, not from a place of disrespect and abuse, but a place of healing, and to, knowing that we can really do better as a nation, especially Nigeria that we're talking about, and Africa as a whole. So we're rounding up now, and I'll be...
I just have a comment when you were talking about the comment section. Somebody wrote in there that shame on you guys taking sides with Biden. I thought you were better. You should always be in the middle. So I think they should say shame on Rudolph, because I didn't take any side.
Yes, just to clarify, well, Rudolph, we're not about taking any sides with anybody. We're about putting the facts out there and let people decide. A lot of sentiments are A lot of sentiments have been flying. You know that.
No. They should wait until this week when the show is out this week, when we are sure that Trump is gone. Then I will tell them the truth.
All right. So
I will tell them the whole truth. Yeah.
On your own platform.
On my own show. They will see the real truth. Yeah.
All right, guys. It's been great having you. Thank you so much again, Rudolf Okonkwo, Dr. Damages on his platform, and keeping it real. Adeola Fayehun. You guys are amazing. You do great work, and we urge you to continue doing what you're doing. And we have been covering the new U.S. elections, talking about Africa and Nigeria, and also the End SARS movement, and bringing it all together. That's what we've been doing in this last hour. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching us from New York, and until next time.
Thank you.
Don't say what. Don't say what. Say it.
Oh, New York. We're all in New York.
And we assume, Adeola, we miss you. We do miss you in New York.
She's in the back end of America. We are the greatest city in the world.
We love you in New York, and New York loves all of you. So thank you again, all, and hopefully we'll see you again soon, where we'll talk about another issue. Take care and be safe.